Hi there! In this video, we'll be taking a look at your invoicing and payment settings within the settings section of your Time to Pet account. Your invoice settings allow you to configure how clients will be charged in the system. We'll cover three important sections here. First up is the Automation tab, which allows you to enable automatic charging for your business. Automatic charging allows you to set payments for your pet care business on autopilot, improve cash flow with automatic retries and support for multiple payment options, and is designed to help pet care businesses get paid faster and easier. Automatic charging will run up to once per day at the time that you specify. For example, you could run charges every day of the week at 5 p.m. The algorithm behind automatic charging will dynamically determine when an invoice will be auto-charged based on the invoice's due date. If changes to the invoice's scheduled events result in a change to the due date, the auto-charge date will also automatically be recalculated on an invoice-by-invoice basis. You can also manually override the auto-charge date or completely disable it. Keep in mind that you will have to enable credit card processing in Time to Pet to set up automatic charging. You can set certain rules that determine when an invoice is available for auto charging. The options for this setting are as follows. Due today means any invoice with a due date of today or earlier. Past due includes any invoice with a due date of yesterday or earlier. And past due by includes any invoice with a due date at least a certain number of days in the past. Please note that invoices cannot override your days of the week setting. For example, if invoices must be is set to due today, the invoice has a due date of Wednesday and you only have Friday enabled for auto charging, the invoice won't be auto charged until Friday, since Wednesday and Thursday are not enabled. For compliance reasons, we inform clients one day prior that they will be charged the following day. This email will include the amount and the payment method that will be used and can be personalized in your company settings under messaging. Keep in mind that the only way to automatically send invoices in Time to Pet is through the automatic charging feature. We'll go over how to manually send invoices in a moment. When enabled, the charge failed email will email your client if their automatic charge fails. This email can also be personalized in your company settings under messaging. The payment methods to try setting determines whether we should try only one payment method or multiple payment methods for the client. At most, 3 options will be tried. The options for this setting are as follows. Only try default payment method will only try the default payment method on file. Try multiple payment methods will try the default payment method on file first. If it fails, we will try up to 2 additional payment methods on file. The Invoices tab of your invoice settings allows you to configure specific settings of invoicing, such as your invoice dates and an invoice note. The invoice note allows you to create a default note that will be automatically added to the bottom of all new client invoices. Many businesses will use this to share their billing policies or to thank their customers for their business. Please note that this is not the message used for invoice emails. The invoice email message can be personalized in your company settings under the Messaging tab. The invoice due date is your client's payment date. This is the default setting for all of your clients, but you can always change this date individually on a client's invoice by pulling up their invoice and selecting the calendar icons and choosing a new date. If you've set up a recurring services template for a client, you can also change their default invoice due date there. You can learn more about scheduling with templates by checking out our help article in our video. There are many different options to choose from for your client's invoice due date. For example, if you typically charge for walks after services are completed, you could choose the on date of last service option, or even a set number of days after the last service on the invoice. If you typically charge for services before they're rendered, you have options for the before the first service as well. The invoice date is simply the day your invoice is dated for. Keep in mind this does not affect the client's payment due date or when the actual invoice goes out to the client. Popular options for this setting include setting this as the day the invoice was created or matching it to the client's invoice due date. You can set invoices to lock automatically as soon as the invoice has been emailed to the client or has been paid by the client. Locking an invoice after emailing means you will not be able to edit the invoice or events associated with the invoice, like adding or removing events, unless you specifically unlock the invoice. These settings are sometimes enabled by companies who have multiple staff members handling scheduling and invoicing. If you have client cancellation fees that you charge based on a set timeline, you can set those up in your invoice settings. Click New Automatic Fee to add a new cancellation charge. You have 3 different time frames you can choose, and you can adjust the time that coordinates with this time frame. For example, if you typically charge for cancellations made less than 24 hours in advance, you can set the time frame and then how much will be charged for the cancellation, whether that's the full price of the service, a flat rate, a percentage, and also no charge. Keep in mind that if you add a new automatic cancellation fee here, you may want to change the default cancellation rate. For example, if any of your clients cancel on time, you may choose not to charge them for that cancellation. By default, numbering for invoices starts at 1 and is incremented each time an invoice is generated. You can reset the number used for the next generated invoice by changing this value. For example, if you set this to 1000, the next invoice you generate will be 1000, and the one after 1001, etc. Accepting credit cards from your customers is easy with Time to Pet. Payments processed through Time to Pet are automatically applied to the customer's invoice, and if your account is connected to QuickBooks Online, they will be automatically synced to your QuickBooks account. Time to Pet currently supports 2 payment processors: Time to Pet Payments, powered by Stripe, and WePay. Time to Pet Payments offers both ACH e-check transactions in addition to credit and debit card processing. ACH allows your clients to pay via e-check and costs about half as much as standard credit card transactions. You can create an account in only a few minutes directly from the Credit Card Setup tab. You may have noticed that Time to Pet Payments and WePay have the same fees for ACH, e-check payments, and credit card transactions. The primary difference between these two processors is that our team built Time2Pet payments to be deeply integrated into your Time2Pet account. If you're not sure if you'd like to connect to credit cards in Time2Pet, you can still send client invoices through Time2Pet and use the invoicing features. To email a client invoice, you'll pull up the client's invoice and select the email button at the very bottom of the screen. This custom message is also the message you can customize in your company settings under messaging. On a client's invoice, you can also mark their invoice as paid if you're processing payments outside of Time2Pet. Click the Add Payment button, select the amount that was paid by the client, the date that they paid, and a description if necessary. By clicking Add Payment, you're then marking this invoice as paid by the client. If you would prefer to process payments manually in Time2Pet rather than using automatic charging, you can use the bulk invoicing feature found on your dashboard under Invoicing to email out invoices in bulk, as well as charge client invoices, send out schedule confirmation emails, and mark invoices as paid outside of Time2Pet. You can read more about bulk invoicing in our help section. If you have any additional questions, be sure to check out the Help tab in your account for helpful articles on specific topics, as well as access to our support team to send any questions. You can also check out our Resource Center, which includes some of our most popular resources for getting started in Time2Pet, such as the onboarding guide and our best practice articles.